but it's meditation for men. Sounds fantastic. Love meditation. Don't try it in this session though, because we're all so tired from Zoom. We'll probably fall asleep on you. But I'll hand over to Jason, if I could, and for you to introduce yourself. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me. First and foremost, so my name is Jason. I am the founder of Meditation for Men, which is a 7-week course which we pulled together for guys. We also have meditation for women as well, by the way. I don't run that, obviously. And I'm also the founder of Making Meditation Mainstream, which is a not-for-profit charity, which is 14 locations currently in and around Australia. So I'll probably just context my my section just with a bit of background and a bit of context and environment to give you like why and how I got into the space, and then I can talk into partnerships and collaboration and how we've used that, really powerfully to, like create momentum in both the organisations. So first off, I've been involved in a corporate background all my life on the sales and marketing side. And so for me, working with partners, having strategic partners, collaborating with multiple organizations has always been something that I've always utilized as part of, growth strategies. So I feel very comfortable in that. So when creating these sort of startup not-for-profit charities and men's groups, that was a strategy which was going to always be a part of an implementation in order to gain maximum momentum and also utilize everybody else's database and their power as well. So first and foremost, I started both of my these movements particularly in late 2018. At that particular time, my particular area, I live in the northern beaches of Sydney in a place called Avalon Beach. And at the end of 2018, we were particularly impacted by suicide in our area. We lost 33 people in our local area of the northern beaches, and unfortunately, I live in a beautiful place in Avalon Beach, but unfortunately, in that particular time, it was also the location where multiple suicides happened in a very focused amount of time. So our area was in particular, it was in trauma. And so we held, and particularly, and I'm sure that all of you are very aware of the stats, so I don't need to talk about the stats and how much, we're losing men as a result of that in the daily suicide statistics. But so we gathered men in our community together, and the real conduit for me starting these organisations was seeing and hearing from fathers of the boys that had suicided, and seeing a group of 300 men all say that they felt lost, that they felt depressed, anxiety, stress, burden, and a whole range of other factors, mental health issues, and many men had considered suicide as an option. And so I had been meditating for 22 years, also equally had mental health problems back in my mid to late 20s. And for me, meditation was a part of my solution and rescue. I was very, very fortunate to be able to be provided with the tools and the skills back then. And for me, it was not the only thing, but it was certainly a big part of my life, which turned around everything for me. So I kind of asked myself in that situation, well, why do these 300 men not feel that they can either go towards meditation or mindfulness, and why this feels so far away from them? And so the main problem for me was I guess that I sort of realized by asking, these men is that, and many of them said that they just didn't feel aligned with it. They felt that it was either a religious or a spiritual activity that was too far away from them. They didn't feel like it was for them. And thus the light shone on me from up above and went, okay, there's your thing. You need to present this in a way which was available and accessible to the community in a different way. So that's why I presented meditation for men. And in many of the groups and many of the companies I'd worked with, I'd realized that men act differently when they're together. So that's why I sort of separated the groups and found that men were more available to meditation and opening when I segregated them into a meditation for men group. So I created a course that was a commercial course that they paid for. And they went through a process of learning meditation in a way which was very, very common sense and not threatening, and definitely wasn't down the spiritual or religious path. So that was one entity. The other one was I created a foundation, which is a not-for-profit charity, which was to bring meditation to communities in, once again, a very available way. So we started meditating on beaches every sunrise at Saturday at 6:30. And so we now have 14 locations with a goal of, say, 30 locations at the end of this year. We've got 70 plus meditation teachers that all come, they're all volunteers, and they all provide this service to people, which is all about connection and community. So those two pieces of connection and community are very common themes in both meditation for men and also for making meditation mainstream. So that's my why, that's my purpose, that's why I'm in this space. I'm very, very passionate about creating change and to getting people to see that meditation can be a part of a solution towards, really positive mental fitness and, happiness and contentment in life. So that's what I do. That's the space I'm in. So coming from scratch, I realized that funding is an issue, and I've heard it in the previous session, funding, government grants, DGR status, getting money, and, going from a small base of just local community, it was really, really important to, I found, collaborate with local business first. So starting with local community. And so I sort of broadened my search into, this is how my pinnacle of start with making meditation mainstream particularly, was I started looking at who are the other allied charity partners that are working in the suicide prevention or mental health space that are allied with me and aligned in mission. So I just started approaching all of these people with the same intent of just, let's collaborate, we're serving the work, and together we can support each other to, I've got a little thing over here that we're doing, which is meditation. You've got another thing, which is dealing with youth. You've got another one over here, which is dealing with another element, and together we are more powerful. So I started with that community engagement first, and then out of that, started to get some alliances, and then started working into more small business community. And once again, was working with initially allied brands. So stuff which had immediate collaboration. So I found that, fitness and yoga studios and things like that were somewhat in the space already of wanting to help people with fitness. And they were much more, really welcome to collaborate, and also were very open to doing the work on partnerships. Because when you start dealing with big business, you get shut down a lot, and it's hard to integrate right from the very beginning with that. Whereas if you're working with smaller SMEs, they're more open to a cross collaboration effort in order to springboard. So one thing which I did, which I think was really, really important to our success of getting momentum very, very quickly, was I picked a charity partner. So I picked Lifeline. So Lifeline was very much part of my inception into suicide prevention and working with them. So I approached them knowing that, well, I saw myself as being a funding partner, because I need to provide something to them. So I wanted to provide funding, and I wanted to see myself as not only doing good for what I was trying to do, but also good for them. By opening that doorway with a large charity partner, I got a lot of traction. So the kind of traction that you can get is not only sharing of resources, but I found sharing costs of events. So I would go to them and I would create opportunities where because they're always looking for funding. I mean, even though that, these big ones have big, funding portals and grants coming to them, they're always proactively looking for funding. So I thought, well, if I can create co-aligned events with these charity partners, that is, going to, fuel some funding towards them, but also open up the topics and talk about mental health and, get it out there more. And we're coming, and I also pitched with them is that, you guys are on the, Lifeline, you guys are on the back end, you're dealing with the trauma at the back. When people are already in crisis, what I'm trying to do is work on the front end in the prevention side. So together, there's this really nice sort of mix going on of pre and post. So I pitched to them events that they could see obvious benefits in terms of funding, but also, PR and marketing and things like, and also aligning themselves with meditation and, being on the front foot. So through the events that I was creating, I was able to share not only costs of the event, so I really minimized. In fact, they held a lot of, I managed to get them to pretty much do a lot of the hard work and hard shifting. They did all the copywriting for me. So they've got PR media people that I could lean into for doing copywriting and editing. Not only that, I managed to get my brand out into a national field by using their database. So because we were doing the work and working with them, they were willing to, tag with us in social media and to, increase that database traction and momentum, So we also managed to get into, which is often the unseen one, but getting into their PR and their networks. So the big companies that they were dealing with, we managed to piggyback off their success and their networks and their people to get into, we managed to get into a big PR media marketing company, which we would have had. They never would have looked at us. But we went in through Lifeline and we managed to get them to take our event seriously. And that happened quite a lot. We managed to get MPs getting involved because of our piggybacking and collaboration with that strong, big charity partner. So that was one element that we managed to create a very successful event from being a very, very small player. And through that event, we managed to get like 8,000 Facebook followers literally within 6 months of doing that through, using that collaboration partner to get really wide, into a different database. So, PR, marketing, resources, cost allocation, all these sort of things, you can get leverage by using that particular type of thing. The other one that we did, so that was particularly with making meditation mainstream. The one that we're doing with Meditation for Men right now, once again, we've chosen another charity partner, Gotcha for Life. I'm not sure if you're aware of Gotcha for Life, but Gus Warland, and he's doing some great work there, personality from Triple M Radio. He's also working alongside Andrew Ward from Head Above Water, 2 big events. So we thought that we would piggyback into one of their events, create a great big team and start collaborating with their sponsors. So these sponsors and stuff are only willing to get involved, obviously, with big players. So by coming in and collaborating on the charity event, we managed to get to speak to the likes of Chemist Warehouse and to start talking to these and sharing their database, getting into their marketing, getting into their database. You know what I mean? So as a small player, we're managing to start using resources and getting leverage by doing these things. Another different way that we have powerfully got more attention than probably what we deserve is we started creating these men's nights, which was they're called the Men's Essential Series, which is basically what we thought we would do is we would create an opportunity where men would have an experience, not just about mental health, but we would slide the mental health messages in there and the themes of, you know, like talking below the surface and things like that, but it not being all about mental health, but instead we would have really wholesome and beautiful collaborations with 2 or 3 different companies that men felt powerful alignment with, that were doing good things for the world and could present some great value to them. So by doing so, we managed to bring together a big national chain called Jack's Tires and Auto that were willing to do a show men how to like service their car and, you know, like those sort of things. Then we had Modus Brewery, who presented their zero alcohol beer and did a brewery thing. And then finally we had the guys from Veggie who do it an organic food and how to grow this thing. So that presented itself as a really different and an interesting night for guys. But the most important thing is I got access to well over 150,000 people in their database by the collaboration piece, by that partnership. You know, they all had, you know, at least 50 or 60,000 on their Insta and their socials, and they were all linking our name, our courses and everything to that piece. They were getting great traction as well from their brands being aligned and wanting to help men and mental health. So they were getting great value. And we were also equally getting great value by stepping up into that world. So that was another thing where we once again shared costs, shared database, shared social media across the board, and we lifted ourselves into territory which we, you know, from a time perspective, there's no way we would have got that PR and marketing without those collaborations and strategic partnerships. And I've just sort of, I've got a couple of minutes left, but the other things is that we've been working really, really successfully with other men's groups. You know, like we've been, you know, Sam, who's not here today, by Grab Life by the Bulls, there is a different, and we use each other as a check-in, you know, like we're checking, like we've got so much in common. We're going through similar things. And I was listening to the previous group before is, you know, we're all going through this, trying to raise funds, trying to make, you know, make money for our families, as well as do this beautiful heart-centered, you know, charities and organizations and finding the time and things like that. So leaning into each other's and sharing ideas, getting mentoring, and like I get such great positive influence from seeing the work that other guys are doing and other women are doing in these organizations. By collaborating regularly, I'm getting inspired by the work they're doing, but I'm also brainstorming and getting incredible ideas from them all, which have propelled me to want to do it more. So me and Sam check in once a month, and you know, I get great value just by seeing his growth and what he's doing, and he challenges me on what I'm doing. And I've got a half a dozen of you know, people that I check in with that are in this field, that are doing these groups, that you know, the inspiration I'm getting is of great value to me. And you know, like what I think, you know, you may remember like a couple of years ago, like that we did the men tour, which was Juvan Langford and Mike Campbell from Beyond the Beers, and just bringing together like dozens and dozens and dozens of people from men's groups and men's mental health, all working together under an umbrella, under the guise of serving the work. rather than feeling like we're all in competition with each other for attention. It's actually serving the work and working together to get, you know, our message out across the way. So, and you know, finally, we're holding retreats coming up soon, experiences for men. And the other collaboration piece that we're doing is that we love doing is we don't try to do it all. We don't want to do it all, but instead we have the opportunity in our retreats to provide an infrastructure and a framework for other groups to come in. So we've got guys who like really specialize in breath work. They're going to come to the retreat and we're going to collaborate with them. We've got guys who are doing ice baths. They're coming in and they're doing that. We've got guys who are doing drumming, and we're going to bring them in. So we're all collaborating and partnering rather than me trying to do it all and just working with my own data. Like I get access to all of their database, and they equally mine. And it's all about, you know, a big part of our mandate with meditation for men and also making meditation mainstream, going from the I to the we. And it's all about us. It's how we can help each other in order to do these great things together in this world. So that's my 20 minutes. That's my alarm. So I finished right on time. So hopefully that's, hopefully that has provided an impact and some examples about how we powerfully use partnerships and collaborations and how we're going to use them. And we will continue to use this strategy because it's the momentum piece for us has gone very, very well because of it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jason. And it's really nice to meet you because I live in Newcastle and I know Scott Mitchison, who runs your meditation classes and does fantastic meditation on the beach up at Dixon Beach here every Saturday. So he's made me more aware of your work. Look, thank you for that. I think that was really good in terms of the partnership and processes you've been using. I'd really like to know briefly, and I'll give you 2 minutes, what about the meditation? That's the key to all this. How do you do your meditation with men? And how you've talked a lot about marketing, and we can come back to that later. But what kind of, in a 2-hour session, say, if I came along, what would I expect?
Oh, you're giving me 2 minutes.
It's the main thing. We want to know about how you do meditation.
The whole session was about partnerships and collaboration, so I didn't talk about meditation. But look, I'm quite simply, Greg, for me, a lot of men are, and we'll all be used to these terms, but we're held in identity, we're held in blueprint, we're held in mask, we hold we hold a lot of pressure and burden and stress and not meeting our greatest, and feeling that we're never ever meeting up to what society has grabbed or has put out there for us. And the course for me is all about, guys, just the recognition of that and coming out of the head and into the heart and showing them how to breathe, showing them how to connect, and doing so in a quite an unreligious and unspiritual way. It's quite interesting. On the front end, I try to present very much a common sense, approach to the entire thing. And the guys actually open beautifully all the way through the course. And that's the way, they feel comfortable coming in because they don't feel like they're going to walk into something they're going to be out of their comfort zone. And then during the process of the week, it's a beautiful transformation, watching guys slowly, connect into something greater than just this identification and mask that society's given them, and falling into something really beautiful and opening into that over the process of several weeks. That doesn't happen in week 1. It doesn't happen in week 2, but it slowly happens through and that is the beauty of the course, is seeing that transition. So, and we do that through really pure and simple practices. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated, but it's the commitment. We have a very strong commitment to the course. So in order to do the Meditation for Men course, you have to commit to doing 2 meditations a day for the full duration of the course. That's a strong commitment. Yep. And that's what we ask of the guys in order to be able to do that. Yep. We unapologetically are not going to change that, because we believe it's, 80% of the guys that do our courses are still meditating today because they've created a habit through that process. So, but I don't want to continue to sell the foundations of my course. I'm here to hopefully help people with collaboration and partnership. But
okay,
yeah,
yep, that's fine. Anybody got any questions for Jason now? Anyone? I'll just open it up for a minute. No. Okay. We will go back to you a bit later, Jason, but thanks for that. It's really good. Al Green, the man cave. Are you in the man cave presently, Al?
Yes, I'm currently in the man cave.
Wow.
I'm in our studio space.
Okay, that's great. All right, Al, take it away. Tell us about the man cave.
All right. Thanks for having me, everyone. Just want to give people an opportunity for just 30 seconds to if you want to stand up, if you want to go get a huge breath of fresh air, or if you need to squeeze tension out of your body or squeeze your toes, whatever you need to do, just over the next 30 seconds and come back. And Greg, I've got while people are doing that, I've got some slides that I'd love to be able to put up. Can I just share my screen because I'm a co-host?
Oh, you are a co-host, so you do it. Yeah. Okay. If they've made you a co-host, you can do it.
Great. Yes, I'm very.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second, everybody.
Great.
All right. Can everyone see that?
Yep, we've got it.
Okay, excellent. Oh. Present. Okay, great. All right, we're on?
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg. Okay, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. My name's Al. I'm the head of community at a Melbourne-based organisation called The Man Cave. We're a non-for-profit, for-purpose charity that works predominantly with boys and predominantly with younger boys, so year 7, 8 to 9. And we run emotional intelligence workshops, which aims to disrupt a negative pattern before it's even started. So today, Jason, really loved your presentation, and so amazing to hear how many different people that you're partnering with and the marketing and the ways in which you're going about that. My presentation is going to be a little bit more around shifting of perspectives on what collaboration can mean. I'll talk a little bit about some of the other organizations that we collaborate with, but my intention at the end of this is that you see really clearly perhaps a different way in which we can view collaboration as a community of people that are really trying to shift things, because we're better and we're stronger together. So I got asked in the preparation of this, what's the key issue that we see kind of from our seat in the country on this cosmic plane, and the main issue that we're seeing in terms of its origin is that there's no process that properly transitions boys to men in Western civilization. It's something that is deeply ingrained in Indigenous cultures all around the world, really since the dawn of time. There were really powerful rite of passage markers that took children into adulthood, and we've somewhere along the way in Western civilization, we've lost that. And there's really no clear markers, we actually ask the boys in our workshops this quite often, the question, when do you become a man? And there's the answers vary from when you can grow a beard to when you have sex to when you turn 18 to when you go to university to when you travel to when you move out of your parents' house. There's not one clear distinguishing factor, and that issue we see is creating a generation of lost boys, but it's also creating there's also a generation here of hurt men, and hurt men trying to guide lost boys is chaos. And so, yeah, we really come in and we're trying to create to disrupt that pattern a little earlier. And I think we see this all the time in our workshops. And I think we can look at a lot of different places in society where lost boys, really the characteristics that they show are disconnection, and aimlessness, and not understanding their place in community, and really lacking a sense of purpose, in understanding where they're heading or what their role is. And then, yeah, I think we can pretty agree across the board, hurt men hurt themselves and they hurt others. And, that can come from a place of internalizing that hurt. And Jason, you were mentioning a few things there around, that can look like social isolation. It can look like really damaging health behaviors, or in really serious situations, it can look like suicide. Or with this hurt, there is projection, and there are, terrifying statistics, and a real national conversation right now about hurt men projecting that hurt onto other people, especially women and people of other genders. So, this idea of hurt men hurting themselves and others is also becomes the role modeling that these lost boys are looking up to. And so perhaps that's where they're finding their purpose is in the role modeling of what they see. So who are we? What are we doing? What are we trying to do about this? There's an amazing proverb that really guides us, which is uninitiated boys will burn down the village just to feel the heat. And I think it's pretty easy to look around the world right now and seeing a lot of boys looking to burn down the village. And it's like a lot of really destructive risk-taking behavior. And for us, at the essence of that, boys want responsibility and boys want leadership. We see it all the time in the workshops that we run. There's a real deep craving for that. And so for us, it's about how do we provide that healthy challenge of them feeling the heat so they don't go and find it themselves? Because right now they're going to frat houses or colleges. They're getting in cars and driving as fast as they can, and they're taking as many drugs as they can on the weekend. They're trying to find this feeling of heat, but there's no one who's safely doing that. So boys are trying to initiate themselves, and that's where we see that real boy pack mentality. So what we think needs to happen about this, firstly, it's kind of two things in our space, is working with boys, but then also really powerfully collaborating with other people, working with men. So for us, it's about creating spaces for boys to find that purpose, for them to feel connection, and not just like connection that's a nice word on a wall, like feel body connection with other people, especially other boys, and to build their self-awareness and to really create that foundational base in which everything else can grow from. Because if they don't feel like they have the internal emotional literacy themselves to be able to talk about how they're feeling, how are they going to have empathy for somebody else's internal world? And so we really believe that our responsibility is to be able to create those spaces. And then the other thing, which is we probably do internally in the Man Cave with our staff and our facilitators, but really excited about the collaborations and partnerships we're creating with other organizations, which really powerfully, and Jason, sounds like you're killing it in this space, is connecting men to services and communities where they can learn to love themselves, where that hurt can be healed. And when men can do that, something we speak a lot about in the Man Cave is when men can do that and they feel like they can sit we can sit with ourselves and we can love ourselves, it means that we take a step back and we create space and we're not intimidated by women taking power, which we 100% think needs to happen. We really believe that men need to take a step back and learn to love themselves so that we're not intimidated by women in power, and that the divine feminine can take us into the next evolution. So yeah, that's really the crux of the issue and where we see the solution to be. So really quickly, just high level, just talking about our programs. We run immersive and dynamic emotional intelligence workshops. And the idea is that boys explore themselves, they get upgraded in their emotional literacy, they can literally talk about how they're feeling more, they understand the impact of judgment, and they really start to connect with their peers around them and realize that they're not alone in their experiences, and that actually we're all much more similar than we think and that we tell ourselves. So they learn about others, and then they start to learn about their community. So our programs are all underpinned by Dr. Anna Rubinstein, who runs the Rite of Passage Institute. he's developed a program which has really synthesized a lot of common threads in civilizations gone past, especially Indigenous communities, and found like the core pillars in what happens during a rite of passage to transition someone from child to adult. And so that underpins all of our work. All of our transformational experiences, as well as, we embody things like Kolb's experiential learning model. We do a lot of strength-based positive psychology, narrative therapy sessions. We picked and choose like from a few different positive psychology avenues. And then like the ultimate thing and the best thing about us is our facilitation squad. We have 22 really diverse and really deeply authentic embodiments of masculinity. And that's the most important part. Because as you can see, this is just some of them. There's a few here that we're missing, but they are wildly different, beautiful expressions of masculinity. And our big thing is boys can't be what they can't see. And so we show them. And we send in 2, 3, 4 of these facilitators at a time. So they get the opportunity to be able to see different versions of masculinity. And this is really where the core of, in terms of our collaboration, this is our internal collaboration. And this is really the cornerstone of our belief system around how we collaborate externally, is that we create all of these different guys together in a room to be able to bring together different versions of masculinity, and for each of our guys to be able to stand in their strength so that each other can stand in their strength. And then they get to see a really broad range of masculinity all in one space, and they get to see all these different versions of masculinity interacting with one another. So before I jump into some of the collaboration pieces, just a perspective shift that I really wanted to share with you. So 2 really guiding principles that really change how we view collaborating with people. First, you can't make a plant grow. It's impossible to impact just one plant. But what we can do is we can affect the environment that exists around that plant to make growing the byproduct. And so we can water the plant. We can move it to a different place where it gets more sunlight. We can put a wind guard on it. We can we can fertilize it. We can clip it away. There's so many different ways that we can impact the plant. But I think there's a lot of people that are telling plants to grow right now. And if we look at boys and men, there's a lot of people in the space that I know are really burnt out right now and are feeling really overwhelmed and feeling the weight of the world, that it's only their responsibility. And I think it's because there are people desperately yelling at plants to grow. But where we can shift that perspective is where we look at, okay, well, you know what? It's just my responsibility to water the plant, and I trust that somebody else is going to prune it. And I trust that somebody else is going to fertilize it. And in fact, I'm going to go and find those people to make sure that that stuff's happening as well. And then the plant will grow on its own, to be able to create the environment in which the plant can grow on its own, because that's the most empowering thing that we can do, is when we can step into our own, we can step into our own power. The other one, which is an age-old quote, which I'm sure many of you have heard, which is you can take a horse to water, but you can't make that horse drink. Our addition to that is our job isn't to make the horse drink. Our job is to make the horse thirsty. And so for us, we really create those spaces, and that really comes down to why we send in our facilitators to be able to be in a space where they are the authentic and vulnerable versions of themselves. And a boy wants to be that. We're not going in and saying, all right, guys, we're opening up today. Who wants to go first? Our facilitators role model that first and really step into it, and don't go straight into that. They spend so much time connecting and playing at the start so that then they can move into a space where they role model that authenticity, and the boys are thirsty to want to do it. And so these are they might feel like little arbitrary shifts in perspective, but really changes everything when we start to look at, it's not about making the thing happen. It's about changing the environment around the thing so the thing wants to do the thing itself. So yeah, I think they're just 2 really important perspective shifts that I wanted to share with you before we look at the idea of how we collaborate, because this really shifts everything. If we're starting to look at everything around the center point rather than the center point itself, collaboration becomes much easier, because we start to look at how each of us can stand in our power of the ways that we're affecting that environment. So how we collaborate. Get this question a lot. Why don't you work with girls or other genders? First and foremost, we're called the Man Cave, and we've run a workshop before for a co-ed group, and it just instantly felt distant for the young women in the group, but also anyone who identified as another gender. It's why I don't think that we're the best organization to be working with other genders. I think the thing that we're real experts at is really working with boys at a younger age and really understanding that we're really in a space of like, there's lots of things that we can do, but what should we do? What should we do? What is our most, if we strip everything else away, what is our most valuable contribution to this? So our partner organization, Flourish Girl, runs exactly the same work with young women. And so whenever we go into a school where we work with, in a co-education space, or if a girls' school gets in contact with us, first and foremost, we recommend Flourish Girl. We've even been asked, but we really want the girls to be able to see men running this work. We just maybe down the line, but we're still really young, and I don't think we're in a place to be doing that yet. And also -18 run incredible work around gender fluidity and just being able to understand the spectrum of gender. And we really believe, and we just want to continue to double down on working with boys. Why don't we do one-on-ones? We get a lot of, especially parents reaching out to us asking, why don't you, I really want to get in touch with one of your facilitators. My son really connected with one of your facilitators. So can I get their number? Can we organize some mentoring? One, we just don't believe that's the safest thing for our facilitators to be opening those passageways to young people. So we really want to protect our facilitators in that. But also, we're not trained counselors. We're facilitators that are really strong in creating authentic environments. And so that's what we do. And we work with group dynamic, and we work with boys in high schools. That's the best thing that we can do. And that's what we want to continue doing. Amazing organizations. We recommend people to Headspace all the time. It's really important that we can collaborate with the school counselors, so starting to think about what are the environments in which you operate in and the people that are around you that you operate with, and how can they be your best allies? We go in for a day and then we walk out. We open a space and we create the tools and we close it safely. But then how do we powerfully make the school counselor the superstar in the room so that then boys who they've just seen this counselor go on the journey with them be able to go, great, that's your best ally. That person is literally your superhero once we leave. And so it's just starting to think about that perspective. Who are the other people in the environment in which I'm working in that I can really powerfully partner with? Also, phone and text counseling. For a lot of boys, it can be really intimidating being in a space and saying the thing to the person in the room. And so phone and text counseling, there's heaps of different services. And we've recently partnered with Batia, and we're going to be creating some online content with them because, again, they're incredible at being able to come in and talk about the stigma and the complexity and nuance of mental health. And then we're great at being able to work with the group dynamic of what next, what happens next? How do we make this not an intimidating thing? Why don't we have a consent workshop? The biggest question that we've had for the last month. We don't have a consent workshop because that's not our expertise. And I think what we do is really powerful foundational work that then creates consent conversations on top of that. And so there's, again, we're looking at partnering with Elephant Ed, which is a Melbourne-based charity that works in like revolutionizing the sexual education world in schools, which, as we've seen over the last couple of months, is critically important. And it also becomes a really amazing foundation for a respectful relationships program, which I think still probably needs some improvement. But I think we come in and we really want to do that first level of self-awareness and connection, which then builds everything on top of that. And then how to make global perspective shifts through narrative. So we work with 30 boys in a room, and then, they shift little degrees and little tangents, and then they go out and shift their people little degrees and little tangents. But how do you really shift a global perspective in this? So we have a personal care brand called Stuff, which was launched about a month ago. And this is a personal care brand for men, which really embodies the values of the Man Cave. Man Cave's a 25% shareholder and the majority shareholder in Stuff. And Stuff creates opportunities for every $1,000 raised. It puts a boy through one of our programs. And so just to be able to start looking and taking responsibility for not only like how can we impact the direct community around us and the direct environment around us, but to start looking at like how do we make brands who literally create the social narratives in which we exist within, how do we force them to take more responsibility for the narratives in which we find ourselves in? And so for us, our co-founder, Hunter Johnson, has created this brand as well, Stuff. And so that's like another way in which we're collaborating and being able to find how can we impact this environment around us. Onward. Cool. Second last slide. All right. I'm going to go an extra 2 minutes over. I hope that's okay. Community. Also, we break that down a lot as what is our common unity? And for us, it's that we want to step into a world where people feel safe to be themselves. And when people feel safe to be themselves, they find their purpose. And when they're acting from a place of love with their purpose, it means that we continue to upgrade and more people feel safe and that we can, you know, elevate ourselves to higher levels of consciousness. So we always ask this question: is there someone, if a new opportunity comes up, is there someone who can do this better than us? If the answer is yes, we don't do the thing and we go and give it to them. That can be really hard if like, and I recognize that can be really hard if like if you're starting out and you really want to like stake your claim in something. It can be really easy to feel like you want to do everything. But the reality is, if someone can do it better than you, you're always going to be in competition rather than collaboration. And so we always approach other organizations and other brands who might be able to do the things better that we're getting asked to do, and to be able to really powerfully onboard them to take that thing from us. And then it alleviates us to be able to focus more on the things that we have mastery over. Does our strength complement their strength? So when we're looking at collaborations, it's like there's we've had people come to us who have said like, oh, we really want you to just do this thing for us. And then it's like, okay, well, hang on a second, like, what are we getting out of that? Or, you know, times in which I've gone to other organizations and been like, wouldn't it be great if we did this? This would be so cool. We should collaborate. And then they go, why would we do that? That sounds like so much work for us and you're posting it on all your platforms. So starting to think about, you know, how does iron sharpen iron, and that the strengths complement each other, which is exactly how we work in our workshops. We will find ways to be able to really offer strength-based feedback so that boys can really find the strength in their community and they can find their purpose and place in their community so they have a stronger sense of their identity. We try and do that all the time as a brand as well when we're looking at connecting and collaborating. Oh, another question. So is this a moment that builds the movement? I think there's a lot of times where we can look at a thing that feels really exciting that's in front of us. And if something's a powerful moment, then that's great. That's fine. But we're in this for the movement and we're constantly thinking about that. So what is the movement, the quantum shift that is happening in the men's space right now? And it's already happening. Like the snowball's turning in a positive way. And so how do we just start to think more about how does this moment right now, and how could this collaboration that we're trying to explore with this other organization that might be able to do something for us, how is this moment contributing to the snowballing effect of this positive movement? So just starting to think about the difference between a moment and a movement. Because a moment is always going to be like, yeah, this is a great thing that we can put on our social media tiles, but it's like a movement is something that's going to help progress your organization or the thing that you're trying to do. Finally, if the answer is like yes to all those things, it's where do we sign? My final slide. If you read one book this year, make it The Happiest Man on Earth. It's by a Holocaust survivor called Eddie Jaku, who just turned 101 years old. And Jason, he's staying up in a retirement home up near you in the northern beaches of Bondi. And it is like a horrific tale that he faced of resilience to survive going through multiple camps in Germany, and you know, all of the worst things that you could possibly imagine, and he survived it all. And it's the most stunning book, and I highly recommend you read it, because the final, just the overarching statement in that is we cannot do it alone, and we can't. like we can't create this movement. And so like starting for us to be able to consciously think about, I think the millennial generation that I am a part of, that I've really needed to challenge, is I've always wanted to have my own thing. I've wanted to go like, this is my thing and I'm contributing in this way. But it's actually about how do we partner together and how do we just make ourselves better? Because we can't do this alone. We need to find ways to collaborate. So I hope I hit the brief. Sorry if I didn't, but this is just kind of what tumbled out of me when I got this pitch to me. So yeah, I hope this, and I saw some comments come through that I haven't read yet, but yeah, that's my thoughts on collaboration.
Okay, great. Thanks, Al. Amazing work. Really good. That's really fantastic. Look, and it's been obvious in those two presentations how you have stuck to the brief about talking about partnership with other people and how important that is. And the other thing about meditation for men, Jason, very men-friendly. I've got them on my desk here. Very men-friendly images for the course that's running up here in Newcastle. I had a chat with Scott about that. What I think you do really, really well is that your imagery is very male-friendly. And sorry if I threw you off about meditation before. I've used meditation for a number of years and teaching people meditation. Yeah, we could have a big, long discussion all day about why men think that meditation is something that they don't want to do, or do they really understand it? And I think sometimes at the end of the day, it's about marketing. And if you know your audience and who you're marketing to, and you obviously do very well, and also Al, in your work as well, a lot of it's to do with really good marketing and strategizing and forming the right partnerships with people. What I'm going to do in a minute is invite Chris Lentis to talk about his program. But are there any questions for Al? Because there are a lot of comments in the chat box about incredible work that you're doing, Al, and people were really impressed with your philosophy. So is there any quick questions for Al Green? Yes, Chrissy.
Hi, Al. First of all, I think the work you do is amazing. Came across you guys a couple of years ago and think it's brilliant. So I'm a counsellor. I work with men predominantly mid-30s to 50s, often fathers of young boys. And I see a really huge impact on them around the #MeToo and look what you made me do stuff that's coming out. I'm just curious as to, how you see that with the groups you work with and what impact that's having. Because I think a lot of these fathers are wondering how they kind of model that for their boys.
Thanks, Chrissy. How to give that in a nutshell. Yeah, I think it's, we had a conversation in our organization check-in this morning actually around, I think a real danger in this whole thing is the hurt men piece internalizing and hiding from this, and just not having the opportunity to just be open and listen and be curious about women's experiences. Like that's the thing that I've learned most over the last few years, is just continuing to put, and it's hard. It's hard, but the thing that helps me get through it is it's nowhere near as hard as the experience of what women are talking about. And for me to be able to actually swallow my pride in that moment and to be, yeah, this sounds uncomfortable to listen to, but imagine experiencing it, what you're being told right now. And it's that real humility of, how can I go in and like love my childhood self enough to feel safe to be able to hear what is being told to me. And then from there, be able to continue creating environments where as older men, we can role model in spaces, openly asking women about their experience, and for boys to really see that. It comes back to that whole thing. Boys can't be what they can't see. And so we really need to empower the men in our lives, and the women too, to be able to create the next, like we need to step into the paradigm shift. We need to be able to step into that. But it's not just men's problem to solve. Like this is everyone. I think we just need to be in a space where like we're just, everyone's more open to be able to be hearing things.
Great.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah, Chris is in the room, and Chris wants to talk about Right Mate, which is one of the things that Chris does in life. He's also a board member of AMHF and a pretty amazing guy. So, Chris, what if I give you 10 minutes to talk about Right Mate?
Yep, sure. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the opportunity. Jason, seriously, we've been watching you guys for the good 18 odd months, and we are huge fans of the work that both of you do around the country. So really honoured to actually have the opportunity to meet you both virtually and listen to some of the amazing stuff that you're doing out there. Right Mate, I suppose, was founded about 18 months ago by myself and my business partner, Luke Outerbridge. We are a incorporated association / not-for-profit here in Geelong, and our focus is solely on Geelong, Surf Coast and the Bellarine, so our local region. We don't have grandma designs to sort of go outside of that. It is just the two of us and a small committee of men. A quick history check on us: we were brought together by a mutual mate through the powerful medium of Instagram DMs. That sort of suggested that we probably need to get our heads together. We've both got various experiences of lived experience through mental health, and we both came to the realisation that we wanted to do something within our local community. For me, that sort of goes back a couple of years earlier to 2017. I ran the New York Marathon for Team Beyond Blue after the suicide of a really close mate of mine in 2016. And that was my trigger to sort of go, right, how does a bloke that I spoke to 2 days beforehand that I was catching up with, suddenly 2 days later, end up with me getting a phone call saying that he was no longer with us. So I spent 9 months in 2017 training my butt off for what was my second marathon. I raised a little under $19,000 for Beyond Blue in 9 months. And I did that purely by doing community engagement pieces. I did coffee days at cafes. I talked at community events. We've got an amazing venue here in Geelong called the Piano Bar, which is your old school cabaret type bar. We did an event one afternoon. We sold 250 tickets in 22 minutes. And it was an afternoon of people full of lived experience, and it was celebrating life and everything that sort of comes with that. And that sort of got me thinking that, you know what, every single person that I came across wanted to talk, and they wanted to share their experience. So how do we upscale that across our community? So Right Mate was born. Right Mate initially started off as a website, and all we were going to do was provide resources to local services around Geelong and the Surf Coast. That's all we wanted to do, because we couldn't find a central directory where you could sort of go, okay, what's going on for men around Geelong and the Surf Coast, and how do we get men connected? And so that's kind of where we started. And then from there, it sort of grew. We got the opportunity to work with the guys behind the Man Walk. So we started the Man Walk here in Geelong. Day one, 4 degrees, raining sideways, middle of July. Luke and I standing in pitch black darkness by the fountain in the waterfront going, no one's going to turn up. Minimal promotion at all, basically just our personal Facebook pages. We had 10 guys turn up on day one. So we knew that we were onto something from there. And that then spread like wildfire. We got some great support from local media here, radio stations, newspapers, a lot. And the Man Walk sort of kicked off and is still going to this day. We run, during summer, we run twice a week, Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings. Through winter, we run on a Saturday morning, but we do dinners once a month on a Wednesday night to sort of keep our crew connected, so to speak. About 4 months into the Man Walk, we got given the opportunity to pitch to one of the schools here in Geelong through one of our regular walkers. So they wanted to get us in and see whether or not we could work with their health and wellbeing guys. Now, I have absolutely no clinical background whatsoever, and neither does Luke, but we've got passion and we've got bucket loads of lived experience. So we sat down, got a feel of what they wanted, and we created the first of what is one of our 4 workshops now. So our target group, when we talk youth, is that year 10, 11 and 12, as they're sort of transitioning into adulthood. We then also work with sporting clubs across Geelong. So we've just gone into a partnership with one of the major cricket clubs for 3 years here in Geelong, and we'll now work with their youth and their senior teams. For us, what we do best, if we had to describe it simply, was we make people comfortable speaking about the uncomfortable. So we take all that information that the amazing services like Beyond Blue, Headspace, Black Dog, all those wonderful federally funded organisations have, and have the time and resources to put into, and we take all that information they put on their website, and then we deliver it in a way that people understand. And that helps people feel empowered and confident enough to be able to have not only those conversations with other people, but have the knowledge and the safety and the knowledge and understanding how to keep themselves safe, how to keep those people safe, but then also what to do with that information as well. We hear a lot about, have the conversation. It's important to have the conversation, and it is by all means. We're very big on encouraging that, but we're also bigger on getting to understand the root cause of the issues that are happening in our community. So in Geelong last year, for those of you that are Victorian based, we went through a quite severe lockdown. So lockdown 1 for us here in Geelong on the Surf Coast, we had 6 young men suicide in the space of 4 weeks, all between the ages of 15 and 17. It literally started a chain reaction, all from a particular cluster area as well. And the professional and the clinical services went in and did what they do best in terms of supporting the community. We held a parent information night via Zoom, and we asked the parents of that community what it is that they wanted. And this was probably about 6 weeks after the fact. And all of them came back to us and basically said the one common thing, it was they want to know how to have that conversation with their kids without being mum and dad, and without having that instinct of I have to fix this kick in, because they felt that they just weren't prepared to be able to have those conversations with their teenage kids. So we went away and we created a bit of a workshop around that, and now we have a parents workshop where we go in and we teach them type of language. We talk to them about non-verbal cues. We give them examples of what they look like. And similar to what I was saying in here, is we've got quite a diverse group of speakers from across our community that we bring in, because we recognised early on the two of us are not the experts in this space by any stretch. We have the means and the ability to be able to facilitate these groups, but we've got an amazing array of people across our community here that have got the passion and the expertise to be able to have these conversations in a much more meaningful impact. In addition to that, we work with a number of different organisations in this space. We do a fair bit of work with Mr. Perfect, the barbecue crew, through Terry, obviously with Man Walk. We've done some work with Josh Cornby and Blokopedia, with Jeremy Forbes at Holt. So we often get in our inbox, similar to sort of, what Al was talking about. Oh, why don't you do something like this? We look at that piece and go, you know what, that's not our wheelhouse. It's not an area that we're comfortable in or we have the knowledge in. So we quite openly will then facilitate an introduction to who we think is doing the best kind of work. And for us, that's the beauty of this whole sort of community mental health space. We are much more open to being able to collaborate and share knowledge with each other, because we all want the same end result. We're very mindful that we're not the individual experts, but we want the same result for our community. And from a men's mental health perspective, and from a young men's mental health perspective, is being able to help them transition into adulthood, help them to understand, those perceptions of masculinity and manhood belong back in the dark ages, that it is more than okay to put your hand up. It isn't a sign of weakness. It is actually a sign of strength more than anything. To actually, recognise within yourself and verbalise that, hey, you know what, life is a little bit tough at the moment, and I need some help. Past the workshops, we do look at bringing in other facilitators. We've got a gentleman here who runs Geelong City Yoga, that we've brought into the sporting clubs and to the schools to do some men's yoga type stuff as well. So we're really looking at it now. We're at that point with the brand where it is now a much more holistic approach. We're in the early stages of planning a dad's night in for across the region here as well, where we will get, we've got a sort of core panel set up of different men with different lived experience that are all fathers, and that'll be a really casual night. Where we differ a little bit from a lot of sort of organisations that come in, we don't run off PowerPoint or any form of presentation. We've got no structure in terms of, this is the agenda we're going to cover off. If you ever come to one of our workshops, you'll see me there with my iPhone and about 4 or 5 bullet points. And they'll be the sort of the core areas that we're going to cover off. But our preference is to actually let the audience tell us which direction they want us to go in. So we very much engage and encourage that interaction and challenge the audience to get involved. And we do that through a series of different exercises, but also by throwing out quite loaded questions out there and getting that reaction, and then using the energy from that reaction to let the conversation flow forward. Yep. So look, that's us in a nutshell. I didn't have anything prepared. This was very last minute when sort of, and I spoke, but look, appreciate the time. If you want to find out more about us, the website's rightemate.org.au, and we'd certainly welcome to sort of hear and work with anyone that's on here today. Cheers.
Great, thanks, Chris. I'm just making people aware there's lots of comments in the chat box, mainly around, these are great programs, mainly for people in cities. And there's a discussion in here about what about in regional areas. I know you're in Geelong though, Chris. Could I just encourage people who've made these comments to please put them on the evaluation sheets for today. We want to hear that feedback. That'll inform us in the future in Men's Health Connected about, do we need to do a special, regional, rural and regional day, half day, whatever. But please, I'd encourage you to do that. Look, they were some great presentations. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Al and Chris. We've got a couple of minutes. If anyone's got a question that they really want to ask, go right ahead now. Yes, John, unmute yourself. Yep.
Yeah, g'day. Hi, Greg, and thanks, gentlemen. That was awesome, right? Terrific to see some collaboration occurring, the synergies there, and I think that's true of so many of the groups that make up this forum and the sector, right? And that's kind of what I'd like to say. You guys are talking about, say, men in one space where their level of development, right? So, with Jason with meditation, they've got some growth, and now you're talking about good role models that you're bringing in and giving the boys a sense of a safe space that they perhaps could grow into, being demonstrated by the men they're seeing. And Chris, you're taking a community approach, right? All of this energy going into generate a change, and yet so many men are resistant to this, right? We seem to bump into men who have other priorities. And is it because we're too comfortable? Is it do you need to have a crisis before all of these efforts that you and others are making start to pay off and change culture, or become more mainstream?
I think the nature of Jesus, we're about to be locked out.
Yep.
I think the nature of mental health in Australia is a very reactive approach. It's on us within the community to change that to a proactive approach. The more we can get out there and get in front of people, then I think the more and higher success rate we're going to have in changing those perceptions and those cultures, and get less resistance.
Great, thanks for that. I think we are right on time to leave the room. Thank you again to the speakers, and thank you for everyone for participating today. It's been really great. Thank you.